Hi, it's Kelly and welcome to Monday Mindfulness. We're in our third part of our series on sleep and how it can affect our overall health, especially the cardiovascular health, which I like to address. You know, we can eat and exercise all we want, but if we're not getting that sleep, it really is not going to help us to maintain the weight or lose the weight that we want. So sleep is that important. And let's go ahead and kind of delve into what we're talking about today. So there are ways that sleep works, and this is a very simplified explanation of that. But one factor is what's called a sleep pressure, where there's a chemical called adenosine that builds up, and as it builds up in our brains, that pressure rises and we feel that need to sleep. The second factor is that circadian rhythm that maybe we're a little bit more aware of, that the body's 24-hour clock, and that's regulated by a part of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. And what it does is it coordinates with the circadian rhythm by the release of the hormone melatonin. Now, how does the suprachiasmatic nucleus communicate with the brain? Well, signals come from daylight. So when we get out in the morning, it uses daylight and it goes through the retina of the eye. When it enters the eye, that daylight, it signals the brain to stop the release of melatonin. So it tells the body that it's time to wake up. We don't need that dark or that sleep anymore, which makes me think of how important it is to really have a dark bedroom. And with all the little electronic devices and lights that come, if it's impossible to block that off, we may want to wear an eye mask. That's the purpose of that. So darkness and then the sunlight in the morning, that really is a signal to the body. Now, we really have become a dark deprived society, as I mentioned, with those electronics. And it's not just the lighting of the bedroom, but it's also those electronic emissions from laptops, computers, our cell phones, the strong LED light, and that interferes with the brain's triggers for that sleep cycle. So as a dark deprived society, we really need to remove those triggers. We need the darkness to trigger the brain to release melatonin. So some people may wonder about melatonin as a sleep aid. You know, should I take it? I remember giving it in the hospital quite frequently, and then it kind of tapered off. Well, what is the evidence showing that a low dose could be very helpful? 0.5 milligrams to 3 milligrams is a good place to kind of start and stay within. Any more causes the body to be less receptive to our own bodies making and producing that melatonin naturally. You know that as we age, the amount of melatonin that we produce is sort of blunted. And so for an elderly person to take a low dose melatonin at night could be helpful, but huge amounts really don't serve a purpose. And then we also want to be careful of the fact that melatonin is not regulated by the FDA, and there are wide variations on how much melatonin is actually found in what we're taking in those over-the-counter melatonin supplements. It's interesting that, you know, in nature, there are foods that contain melatonin, and some of those, I'll just kind of give you a list of some of the favorites. I really like tart cherry juice, cherries, dried cherries, nuts, goji berries, rice, bananas, mushrooms, oats, legumes, and if you are someone who likes fish, occasionally having fish, that also is a good source of melatonin. So that's pretty much the cycles of how sleep works. I want to go into just a little bit about the idea of chronotype. Now, I've come to realize that I am definitely a morning lark, not a night owl. I've, for many, many years, lived as a night owl, and it didn't serve me well. Once I realized that, yes, getting up in the morning, going to bed earlier really is beneficial, I felt so much better, and it definitely improved my energy. So a chronotype is genetically decided. You have a genetic imprint, and likely you follow the pattern of one or both of your parents. There are questionnaires online. I can put one in as a link below, but these questionnaires really kind of can give you an idea. One is called MEQ and another one is MCTQ. So those can give you an idea. It's a questionnaire of maybe, 20, 25 questions, and it kind of determines what chronotype you are, a night owl or a morning lark. So, for example, the peak alertness for a morning person, that's going to arrive a couple hours sooner than for a night owl. And it's an important thing to be mindful of what works best for you, and to make it a priority that you get those 7 to 9 hours of sleep. So you may want to look at how you can optimize your schedule to get to bed earlier, get up earlier if that's what you need to do. So I thank you for joining me for today's Monday segment on sleep. I know next time there's so many other things that I really want to get into: sleep and hunger, sleep and diet. Very, very eye-opening topics that we should be aware of. And please share this with anyone that you think would benefit from. So next time we'll talk about a little bit more about how diet and sleep are interconnected and how they affect each other. Thanks for today.